Hello, this is Heather from Stamps Paper Love. Today I have a scrapbooking process video for you that I hope inspires you to tell your own stories. If you are interested in more scrapbooking inspiration, be sure to subscribe to my channel and follow the links in the video description to find me on Instagram. So the photo that I'm scrapbooking today is a photo of my daughter, and I started by mixing some watercolors to splatter on the background paper. Then I am choosing just some papers from a retired collection from Simple Stories called 24/7. I chose several different papers to layer to make the background or photo backdrop. I really like the colors in this collection. They go nicely with the colors that my daughter was wearing that day. She's got a nice blue shirt on with a scarf that has the reds that I chose for the papers as well. At this point, I decided that I was going to do some inking around the edges of all of the papers that I'm using. So I go ahead and put black ink around all of the edges of the papers using just a little paper dauber, or ink dauber rather. And I ink up everything. I ink up the papers, I ink up the cut aparts that I'm using as embellishment pieces. I ink up the background page, just the whole thing. Everything gets a little bit of ink. And just really sets off the paper and makes it stand out from the background. So I really enjoy doing that and use that technique quite a bit. After I have everything inked, then I'm going to adhere the photo to the papers, and I think I go ahead and stick the whole layered element down on the page at this point and start thinking about how I am going to add some embellishments and a title and how to tell a quick little story about this particular road trip. And that's what I go ahead and do for the title as well. You'll see in a minute I'm going to use some thickers to build that title, and I call it Road Trip Essentials. There's also some letter stickers that I believe were from that 24/7 collection as well. And I'm just sticking the thickers onto a piece of packaging so that I can get a feel for what the spacing is going to be and how it's going to look with the rest of the elements of the page. And there it is. Road Trip is on the page, and I'm adding on the letters for Essentials. I think I end up sticking them down and then pull them all back up a little bit to reposition a little bit. And so that was great use of my little paper punch tool as I have to lift them back up on the page and straighten them out a little bit so they're more pleasing to my eye. So Road Trip Essentials for my daughter, if you can see the photo, include chips and dip. She is a huge fan of chips of all kind and does not hesitate to eat chips at every opportunity. So this particular road trip, we were taking a trip to my dad's, who lives about 2 hours away. And as I was getting some last minute things packed in the car, I had no idea what she was doing, but she was getting those essentials, those chips and dip for her snack as we were headed up that way. So now I'm kind of deciding on some embellishments, and I added the little car that's a stamped element. The car stamp is from My Mind's Eye's World Traveler collection, and I thought it was just a little cute little addition to the page. And then there's a chipboard piece that says Ready, Set, Go. That is from the Echo Park Getaway collection, and I just thought it really had a good color scheme to go with the rest of the elements on the page. And I'm adding a few labels to get a little bit more red on the page. And there are some cut aparts in the collection that I cut apart even more than they intended and just made little accents that I could add to the paper. The one that I'm putting down right now says do more of what makes you happy, and I think I finally decided to put it about just a little bit above where the car is, and it just brings some nice color into that area with the red. I like all the red that's moving around the page. Then I start laying it over with this Life is Good element, and initially there's just a blue piece behind it in the label, and I keep going back and forth with adding some other things to it. I wanted to add in some of the striped paper, and I have seen a technique on some other videos recently that I really kind of am in love with, and that's where you notch the page a little bit. I hit it with the distressor to rough it up, and I think I ink it as well, and then add that striped paper to the back of the layout so that it just peeks through on the edge. In the end, I do end up covering most of it up with that Life is Good element, but it just peeks behind that a little bit, and is really, I enjoyed it. I think it looked really nice and helped draw in those stripes a little bit more so that there was some more movement around the page. I also have this camera element that's kind of a dimensional. It's lifted up off of the page a little bit, so I added that to the corner. And I wanted to use this little notebook edged paper, but I kept it there for a bit and just didn't really like how the cork look worked right there. So I end up taking it off, and I'm going back to the papers and back to the cut aparts and finding some things that I do end up liking and using the little strip of yellow. It says very important on it, and her chips, and usually it's salsa, but in this case it was some kind of cheese dip. But her chips are very important to her, and definitely seem to fit with the theme of the layout. And I think I finally have decided to stick that down to the page, and just am fussing with it a little bit more. There's a piece of washi tape that I add on eventually, a little black and white polka dot piece. That was a real adventure as I was making the layout, because the entire roll of washi tape pretty much ended up in the trash except for the small piece that I was able to salvage to put on the layout. It was just really sticking to itself too much, and I couldn't do much with it, so I wound up throwing most of it away. Here I'm adding on just a little bit of journaling. It's very short. It says, on our trip up north to see my dad and Cindy for Christmas, Haley couldn't be caught without her true love, chips and dip. So that definitely is her main snack, and wanted to make sure that we have a good memory of her and her love for chips and dip. And I also add on some leftover items that I had from a Cocoa Daisy kit, the little circles with the arrow and the car and the camera, and I think that just really kind of ties it together. There's a little label sticker where I put the month and the year on there, and that is the layout. I really enjoyed creating it, and I thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found my video helpful and inspiring. Don't forget to like the video, and be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of the future videos that I have planned. I'd love to hear from you in the comments section too. Until next time, have a great day, and be sure to get in some creative time telling your own stories.